Europe, once the absolute heart of Formula One, now finds itself getting kicked to the curb as the sport's global expansion goes absolutely mental. Hockenheim and the Nürburgring are already gone, replaced by shiny new venues in Saudi Arabia and Miami. The legendary Spa-Francorchamps circuit in Belgium survives only on a partial rotation basis and will appear in just 4 races over 6 years. So, why is Formula One abandoning Europe? Today, we'll find out. When the Formula One World Championship launched in 1950, it featured 7 races and 6 of them were in Western Europe: Britain, Monaco, Switzerland, Belgium, France, and Italy. Only the Indianapolis 500 in the United States, briefly counted as part of the championship, represented the non-European world. This European concentration wasn't some random accident. It reflected both the sport's birthplace and its core fanbase. The engineering traditions that gave rise to Grand Prix racing were deeply embedded in European culture, with manufacturers like Ferrari, Maserati, and later Lotus, Williams, and McLaren establishing their bases across the continent. The drivers, too, came primarily from European nations, creating hometown heroes for local fans to cheer on. In these early decades, there was zero incentive for Formula One to venture far beyond Europe. Travel logistics were an absolute nightmare and bloody expensive in an era before efficient air freight became commonplace. Teams could transport their cars and equipment by road between most European venues, making for a practical and economical racing calendar. However, the calendar slowly added a few non-European events as the years progressed. Argentina hosted races here and there from the 50s, South Africa joined in the 60s. Yet, even by 1980, 3 decades after the championship's inception, European races still dominated the calendar. Formula One remained at its core a European sport that occasionally visited other continents.
There's the air bottle going down, Patrese waving his arms to indicate to the drivers behind him in case the race starts.
The seeds of Formula One's global shift were planted during the long reign of one man, Bernie Ecclestone. In the 70s, Formula One saw a battle for control between the governing body and the Constructors Association. Ecclestone, representing the team owners, wanted more say in how the sport was run and how its commercial potential was used. The conflict reached its peak in 1982 when teams even boycotted certain races as leverage. Eventually, Ecclestone emerged victorious through the signing of the first Concord Agreement in 1981, which defined the terms by which teams competed in Formula One and how television revenues and prize money would be distributed. This agreement, though modified over the years, established a framework that would govern F1 for decades, with Ecclestone firmly at the helm of the commercial side, because while everyone was fighting, he managed to buy the television broadcasting rights to Formula One. Prior to Ecclestone's involvement, each race organizer negotiated its own television deals, resulting in fragmented coverage and limited international exposure. Ecclestone revolutionized this approach by centralizing the TV rights. Through his company, Formula One Promotions and Administration, he began selling the sport to broadcasters worldwide as a complete package. Suddenly, a Grand Prix in Monaco could be watched by millions, from Sao Paulo to Singapore, and this global exposure made F1 vastly more attractive to sponsors in host countries. By the 80s, Ecclestone had transformed F1 from a fragmented, Europe-centered series into a more unified commercial package ready for export. Under Ecclestone's leadership, the calendar slowly but steadily expanded beyond Europe. His philosophy was clear: find new markets and new revenue streams by taking Formula One to countries eager to showcase themselves on the world stage.
Who's going to win the World Championship? The one with the most points, I'm sure. I don't know who it's going to be, though, at the moment.
All right, thank you for that valid contribution.
Japan was Formula One's first serious foray into Asia. The Japanese Grand Prix debuted at Fuji Speedway in 1976, coinciding with the growing presence of Japanese manufacturers in the automotive world. The race provided a dramatic finale to the 1976 season, where James Hunt claimed the championship in absolutely horrendous rain, while Lauda decided to withdraw on safety grounds. After a brief hiatus, the race returned in 1987 at the challenging Suzuka circuit, owned by Honda. Suzuka quickly established itself as a driver's favorite, with its unique figure-8 layout and demanding corners. The Japanese fans, particularly during Honda's partnerships with Williams and McLaren in the late 80s and early 90s, brought a unique enthusiasm to the sport, often camping out for days to secure the best viewing spots. Japan's race succeeded because it combined genuine fan passion with manufacturer interest. and, importantly, political and financial support. The event became a fixture on the calendar and remains one of the few Asian Grand Prix with an atmosphere comparable to the traditional European venues. Australia joined the Formula One calendar in 1985 with a street circuit in Adelaide. The end-of-season race quickly became popular for its party atmosphere and challenging layout. In 1996, the Grand Prix moved to Albert Park in Melbourne and shifted to a season-opening slot. The Australian Grand Prix succeeded through strong local government support, particularly from the Victorian state government, which valued the international exposure for Melbourne. The race consistently attracted large crowds and became known for its festive atmosphere.
Fans could be seen scaling the debris fence and squeezing through a gap in the fence before the end of the race, coming within metres of speeding cars, as other fans yelled at them to get off the track.
The real expansion into Asia began in earnest with Malaysia in 1999. The Sepang International Circuit near Kuala Lumpur represented a new generation of Formula One venues. Purpose-built to modern standards by renowned track designer Herman Tilke, Sepang offered challenging driving with its combination of long straights, tight hairpins, and sweeping high-speed corners. The tropical climate added another challenge, with extreme heat and humidity and sudden monsoon downpours creating absolutely chaotic racing conditions. Initially successful, the race eventually suffered from declining attendance and government reluctance to continue subsidizing the high hosting fees. Malaysia left the calendar after 2017, an early indication that even new markets could find F1's financial demands challenging to sustain. China represented perhaps the most strategic market for Formula One's global ambitions. The Chinese Grand Prix debuted in 2004 at the purpose-built Shanghai International Circuit, another Tilke design featuring striking architecture inspired by the Chinese character Shang. The massive Shanghai facility, costing over $450 million, symbolized China's economic rise. For Formula One and its sponsors, China offered access to the world's largest consumer market. Major teams like Ferrari and Mercedes saw China as crucial to their automotive sales strategies, adding commercial imperative to F1's presence there. Singapore's entry to the calendar in 2008 marked a revolutionary moment for Formula One. The Singapore Grand Prix was the first night race in F1 history, with powerful floodlights illuminating the Marina Bay Street circuit against the backdrop of the city skyline. The visual spectacle was unprecedented, creating instantly iconic images for television viewers worldwide. The Singapore model went beyond just racing. It combined the Grand Prix with a festival of entertainment featuring international music acts, lifestyle events, and luxury experiences. This entertainment package approach would later influence how other venues marketed their races. Yep, all the good ideas for USA race events came from here, but we'll talk about this a little later. Singapore also represented a different economic model. Rather than relying solely on ticket sales, the city-state viewed the race as a tourism driver, with the government subsidizing hosting fees in exchange for global exposure and increased visitor spending across hotels, restaurants, and retail. But not all of Formula One's Asian adventures proved successful. The Korean Grand Prix and Indian Grand Prix both had brief moments on the calendar. Korea's Yeonggam circuit, built in a remote area with plans for surrounding development that never materialized, struggled with logistics and attendance. India's Budd International Circuit delivered excellent racing, but faced bureaucratic hurdles, including tax disputes between Formula One and local authorities. Both demonstrated that simply building a modern facility wasn't enough. Sustainable races needed robust business models, government cooperation, and genuine fan interest. Following its expansion into Asia, Formula One turned its attention to the Middle East, a region that would transform the sport's financial landscape and accelerate the shift away from Europe. With virtually unlimited funds from oil wealth, Middle Eastern nations saw F1 as both a status symbol and a vehicle for economic diversification and international image building. Bahrain broke new ground as the first Middle Eastern country to host a Formula One race in 2004. The Bahrain International Circuit in Sakira represented another Tilke-designed facility, but with a novel challenge: a desert location that required extensive measures to prevent sand from blowing onto the track's surface. The Bahraini government fully backed the project as part of its economic diversification strategy. Crown Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa was personally involved in bringing F1 to the Gulf state. Despite limited local motorsport traditions, Bahrain positioned its Grand Prix as a regional event, attracting visitors from neighboring Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates.
Tecnologia!
The Abu Dhabi Grand Prix debuted in 2009 at the purpose-built Yas Marina circuit, setting new benchmarks for luxury and extravagance in Formula One facilities. The track cost a reported $1 billion, an absolutely astronomical figure compared to traditional circuits. The Yas Marina's unique features included a section running underneath a hotel, a marina with trackside so you could watch the race from your yacht, and the iconic color-changing LED facade of the Yas Hotel spanning the circuit. The track also pioneered the day-to-night race format, starting in late afternoon and concluding under floodlights after sunset. Abu Dhabi secured the prestigious season finale slot, where many championships have been decided. The Emirates' vast wealth allowed for facilities that dwarfed anything seen at traditional European venues. But all of this money came with sacrifices, and some European tracks had to go.
So you just cut a new deal with these Hungarians then, Bernie?
I don't like that expression. We've made an arrangement.
Some European races disappeared entirely during this period. The San Marino Grand Prix at Imola ended after 2006. The French Grand Prix vanished after 2008, before its brief revival a decade later. The European Grand Prix, which had been held at various venues including Valencia and Nürburgring, was discontinued. Germany's alternating arrangement between Hockenheim and Nürburgring became increasingly tricky. Even Italy's historic Monza faced uncertainty at times, as financial challenges put its future in question. In effect, Ecclestone's era initiated the drift from Europe, but it would be the next era that accelerated it to full throttle. Before we get into Liberty Media and their extravagant plan to bring like 6 races to the US, I've just passed 15,000 subscribers, and I wanted to thank you all. The support has been massive. However, the question is, can we get to 20K by the summer break? In 2017, Liberty Media's $4 billion acquisition of Formula One marked the end of the Ecclestone era. Led by Chairman John Malone and CEO Chase Carey, Liberty brought an American entertainment industry perspective to what had been a very European-oriented sport. The new owners articulated a clear vision: transform Formula One from a racing series into a global entertainment brand. This vision had profound geographic implications. Liberty identified key growth markets where Formula One had untapped potential, with the United States at the top of the list. At the same time, Liberty recognized the financial value of the Middle Eastern races Ecclestone had established, and saw no reason to retreat from the region's lucrative hosting fees. Qatar joined the Formula One calendar more recently, initially as a one-off replacement event in 2021. Despite its late arrival, Qatar quickly secured a long-term position, signing a 10-year deal starting from 2023, after a 1-year hiatus during the 2022 FIFA World Cup. For Qatar, the substantial hosting fee, reported to be among the highest on the calendar at around $55 million annually, is a worthwhile investment in its international reputation and tourism development. Saudi Arabia represents the most recent and perhaps most controversial addition to Formula One's Middle Eastern expansion. The Saudi Arabian Grand Prix debuted in 2021 on a temporary street circuit in Jeddah, with plans for an eventual move to a permanent facility in the futuristic city of Qiddiya. The Jeddah Corniche circuit became the fastest street track on the calendar, with average speeds exceeding many purpose-built facilities. The night race, illuminated by floodlights against the Red Sea backdrop, produced visually spectacular images and action-packed racing. But what do the financials of these Middle East races look like? They typically pay far more than their European counterparts for the privilege of hosting Formula One. While a traditional European Grand Prix might pay $15 to $25 million in hosting fees, Middle Eastern events often pay $55 million or more. This premium pricing has reset market expectations, making it increasingly difficult for European venues to compete. Gulf states have shown willingness to commit to decade-plus agreements. Bahrain until 2036, Saudi Arabia until 2031, and Abu Dhabi until 2030 all have contracts that extend well into the future, providing Formula One with financial security and predictability. For Formula One's commercial rights holders, first under Ecclestone and later under Liberty Media, these advantages have proven absolutely irresistible. The Middle East now accounts for approximately 20% of the race calendar, a remarkable share for a region that had no Formula One presence before 2004. However, the real cash cow was saved till the very end. The United States had long been the white whale of Formula One, a massive market that the sport had never fully captured despite multiple attempts. Liberty Media made cracking America a top priority, and the Netflix-fueled surge in US interest gave them the opportunity they had been waiting for. Drive to Survive, produced in partnership with Netflix and launched in 2019, fundamentally changed Formula One's global footprint in ways that would accelerate the sport's shift away from its European foundations. Austin's Circuit of the Americas had hosted the United States Grand Prix since 2012, but under Liberty's direction, the 2021 United States Grand Prix in Austin saw an astonishing 400,000 attendees over the weekend, the largest crowd for any F1 event up to that time. The Miami Grand Prix debuted in 2022, set around the Hard Rock Stadium with a manufactured beach club atmosphere complete with a fake marina. Even more ambitious was the Las Vegas Grand Prix, which joined the calendar in 2023. For this event, Formula One itself became the promoter, purchasing a $39 million site on the famous Las Vegas Strip for $240 million to build a permanent pit and paddock facility. But all of this money didn't save the track from looking like a pig, which is still funny to me.
There was a Formula One race in Las Vegas over the weekend. You had to have a ticket in order to watch the race. There were some vantage points outside the fence, but it's illegal to stand still and watch if you don't have a ticket. But there was this escalator, which is closer to the circuit than any of the seats. It's on the best corner. There were security guards at the top and bottom issuing fines if anyone stopped and watched. But as long as you were moving, you didn't get a ticket. So these guys spent the entire race going up and down, up and down.
The three US Grand Prix now occupy distinct niches. Austin offers a purpose-built racing circuit that appeals to traditional motorsport fans. Miami provides a celebrity South Beach lifestyle experience, and Las Vegas delivers the ultimate high-roller, nightlife-scented spectacle. Together, they give Formula One more races in the United States than in traditional powerhouses like Italy, Germany, or France. Plus, Liberty hasn't stopped at 3 American races, with rumors pointing to possible events in Chicago, New York, and elsewhere. Liberty Media set a cap of 24 races per season, acknowledging the strain that the expanding calendar placed on teams and personnel. This ceiling created a mathematical problem. If the Middle East maintained its 4 races and America had 3 or potentially more, while Asia-Pacific venues like Japan, Australia, Singapore, and China remained on the schedule, something had to give.
And I am not worried about demand because we have been lucky enough to see interest in Formula One explode.
And that something would inevitably be Europe. Domenicali articulated the new reality bluntly in 2022 when he rejected calls to safeguard legendary European tracks. History is not enough to guarantee a place on the calendar, he stated. This led to a new concept being implemented: rotation. Rather than completely eliminating certain European races, F1 began exploring arrangements where venues would alternate years on the calendar. The rotation model allowed Formula One to maintain some connection with its European heritage while freeing up slots for more lucrative new venues. It also created a sense of scarcity around certain races, potentially driving up attendance in years when they did appear on the calendar. Belgium's Spa became the first established race to accept such terms, securing a deal to host 4 races over 6 years. The situation in Spain provides a perfect case study of how Liberty Media's approach differs from the past and how cities now compete for Formula One's attention. In 2023, rumors began circulating about a potential new race in Madrid. By January 2024, these rumors were confirmed. Formula One announced a new Madrid Grand Prix to be held on a semi-permanent circuit around the convention center starting in 2026, with a contract running through 2035. The Madrid deal didn't immediately clarify the fate of the Barcelona race, which has a contract through 2026. With Spain unlikely to host 2 races permanently given the restrictions on the calendar, Barcelona's long-term future appeared in jeopardy. The Madrid race offered several advantages from F1's perspective: a more central location in Spain's capital city, superior public transport links, and significant investment in modern facilities. This direct competition between Spanish cities exemplified Liberty Media's approach, creating a marketplace where locations compete for F1's favor based on financial terms, facilities, and potential for spectacle, rather than historical significance. Honestly, it's hard not to feel like we're losing something special here. Formula One, at its core, was about the pure excitement of racing, the drama of legendary tracks, and the unpredictable nature of the sport. The drift away from Europe may be inevitable, given financial realities, but I think maintaining Formula One's sporting soul amid this geographic transformation remains both possible and necessary. However, I do believe that we'll someday see about 3 races in Europe in one season. That's it. Given all that, which 3 tracks would you choose to stay? Mine are Silverstone, Spa, and Monza. Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe.